This week marks a milestone, 10 years since the beginning of the Iraq War, and the ripple effects continue to impact our nation and the Middle East. Today we're talking with the leader of Indiana's National Guard, Major General Martin Umbarger. His take on how armed forces have changed over a decade of war and the budget cuts we now face. Plus, a theological expert weighs in on the new pope. And we take on the hot topics making news this week with our political insiders. It's all coming up on this edition of Indianapolis This Week.
From RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Welcome to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Rafael Sanchez. This week marks 10 years since the U.S. entered into Operation Iraqi Freedom, leading to the fall of Saddam Hussein's government, the occupation of Iraq, and the establishment of the government in place today. This war has come at a price. More than 4,400 Americans died in Iraq. Nearly 3,500 of those were killed in action. Nearly 32,000 Americans have been injured. I sat down with the leader of Indiana's National Guard, Major General Martin Umbarger, to talk about the Guard's role in national security, the reality of the sequester on readiness, and the impact of the war. We're joined this morning by Major General Martin Umbarger. Thank you for joining us this morning on Indianapolis This Week. As we mark the 10th year anniversary of the war in Iraq and then the ensuing war in Afghanistan, Hoosiers have played a critical role. National Guardsmen and women have played a critical role in the war on terror.
Yes, sir, Rafael. I think the average Hoosier maybe doesn't realize, but, you know, Indiana is the 15th largest in population of our nation, but the National Guard in Indiana on the Army side is the 4th largest Army Guard in the entire nation, and we're the 6th largest overall, both Army and Air. And Indiana has played a tremendous role in the number of deployments both to Iraq and Afghanistan and, quite frankly, all over the world since 9/11.
And this is really the largest deployment since World War II of both men and women in the National Guard. Did that stress out the system? Do you have enough people to, because many of these National Guardsmen went on tours for more than either twice or even for a third time?
Yes, sir. It's been tough. It's been tough for our citizen soldiers and airmen and their families and their employers. But Indiana's a very patriotic state. We have tried to, over the last 10 years we've been in this fight, to have some predictability and a model that we can use to assure that there is some, we call it dwell, that we can assure a soldier and his family that when he or she comes back from a deployment, they have. And in my case, I had a policy where it was 36 months that I could try to guarantee that they could be home before we would involuntarily mobilize them back, so they could at least be back home at least for 3 years, and but they could volunteer to go back and even more. That's our way of kind of assuring that they aren't, you know, sent back too often.
Do you see a greater dependency on the citizen soldier? We've seen that there's been a lot of drawbacks for the U.S. Army and the Marines and the Navy, and we've seen that a lot more of the men and women being sent overseas to fight for the country's freedoms have been the citizen soldier. Do you see a greater dependence from the federal government on you and the other generals across the states?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the Chief of Staff of the Army and Chief of Staff of the Air Force both have said we could not have done this without the National Guard, without the reserve component. And, you know, I'm kind of a little bit of a student of history. If you really go back to our founding fathers, this is how they kind of envisioned it. Quite frankly, our founding fathers felt we could really never afford a huge standing military, that you had to rely upon the militia, if you would, the citizen soldier that kind of keeps the nation linked to the military. So I really kind of feel like that that's what the National Guard is here for. First and foremost, we're here to protect the citizens of our state from man-made natural disasters, which we have done so often. But we're also here to back up the Air Force and the Army in a time of crisis or a time of war, and that's in fact what we have done.
Do you think we'll see more of a reliance on machinery? I know that drones have been sort of the new thing in the military, or will we still need that manpower? Will it be a fight between machinery and manpower, or will you have to sort of balance that out?
You know, we're in such a high-tech technical stage, and drones or unmanned aerial systems is in essence what we're talking about. A lot of reliance on them, but still there's nothing like that soldier standing on that intersection, that soldier standing on top of that hill that says, you know, I'm occupying this. You can never get away, quite frankly, from that, and that's the bedrock of our military is the soldier. So, even as we get more technology, you'll never replace that soldier standing on the ground.
As we wind down the war in Afghanistan, are we going to have enough resources as the men and women return when it comes to mental health and jobs? Because those seem to be the two biggest issues. There's a high incidence of suicide among the men and women returning, and also then there's a lack of jobs. Do we need to do more on those two fronts as those men and women return?
Probably, Raphael, we'll never be able to do it. I mean, yeah, we should do as much as we can. I think what I have seen in this position that I've been honored to serve for the last over 9 years, we have a lot of programs. We have a lot of employers that will come to us and say, I want to hire veterans. And we work with that. We have job fairs. It is the #1 issue to returning soldiers and airmen is to try to improve their education. Quite frankly, they can use the GI Bill, which is wonderful. The post 9/11 GI Bill is a wonderful thing, and also to try to help them get better employment. So we can never do enough, but. Here in Indiana, we're very blessed. A lot of employers have contacted us to try to hire them.
You talked about the importance of having that man or woman standing guard. And as we deal with this financial crisis in Washington, should Hoosiers be confident that the National Guard is ready for tornado season and flood season, in light of the fact that there's now a lot of pressure on you to make some cutbacks because of these crises that are occurring in Washington?
Well, our #1 job, our #1 mission of the Indiana National Guard is first to be here for the citizens of our state. So I am always, have my staff keeps me aware to make certain that we have the capability here and the essential skills that we need to be able to be there when the governor calls us to go to a community. And I think I looked this up prior to coming for a meeting today. Since the last 9 years, we've been called out 27 times. Something like Henryville. You know, Henryville, we just celebrated the 1-year history of that terrible tornado down those 6 communities down there. We had soldiers the very next morning. We had over close to 200 soldiers that were out working with the first responders. That's what we do. I personally feel we're such a large state when it comes to the force structure that we have that we have adequate manpower and equipment to take care of our state when we're asked upon.
You know, there's something reassuring when you see a National Guardsman at the side of a tornado, and I think you know that in 2008 when my home flooded, it was reassuring to see your men and women there on site saying that things were going to be okay. And so I think there's always a fear that when you hear about all these crises in Washington and maybe possible cutbacks, that they won't be there. But you say that they will be there if called.
We will be there, yes. Sequestration, we just happened a couple days ago. It is going to impact our readiness. We're not going to fall off. They said they'll fall off the cliff. The Indiana National Guard is not going to fall off the cliff. We're here, but we will have cutbacks to our operation and maintenance budgets. I don't know if people realize this or not, but close to 1,000 of my full-time guardsmen will start being furloughed 1 day a week beginning the 3rd week of April if something isn't resolved with this. I'm very saddened about that, but we will make sure that they're not off on the same day, and we will get through this, but that's the impact it's going to initially have to us here in Indiana.
And final thoughts in our remaining moments here, the issue of possible base realignment and closures. We have a number of key facilities in our state. We have Camp Atterbury and Still Grissom and Fort Wayne. Are you confident at all? Are you hopeful? I should say, are you hopeful that our bases will remain open in the next cutbacks when BRAC resumes its work?
Well, you never can be too confident when there's a BRAC. Indiana's been hit tremendously hard over the last 20 years on BRAC. Fort Benjamin, Harrison was closed here for years. Grissom was going from an active duty base to a reserve component base, Jefferson Proving Ground. But The last BRAC in 2005, Crane survived it pretty well. So did Camp Atterbury. We've added Muscatatuck, our urban training center, since then. My personal feeling is we're positioned very well with the performance and the job that we have done the last few years. That I think the cost effectiveness of what we've been able to do at Camp Atterbury, what we've been able to do at Muscatatuck, working with Crane, the Governor Pence and the Lieutenant Governor has formed just yesterday. They announced it, a committee that's focused on making sure that we're positioned as well as we can be in this upcoming BRAC. So I personally am confident that I think Indiana's paid their dues over the years when it comes to base closures, and those three main facilities, well, there's more than that, Grissom too, I think we'll be okay.
Major General Martin Umbarker, we thank you so much for joining us. We thank all the men and women that serve, all 15,800 that serve in the Indiana National Guard. We thank you for your service to state and country. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you
and
today.
Come back anytime to Indianapolis this week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. On Tuesday, Jorge Bergoglio of Argentina will officially be installed as Pope Francis. It's been a whirlwind for the man some people in his homeland call El Chabón. That's Spanish for the dude, because he is so humble. We're seeing signs of that already in the Vatican. While the cardinals took their oaths to him, he did not sit on the traditional throne. After his first night, he even refused a private car back to his residence and instead rode the bus with the cardinals who had just elected him. Pope Francis is setting a lot of firsts. The first Jesuit, the first Pope from South America, and the first from outside of Europe in more than a millennium. Despite being 76 years old, he was once again able to impress those cardinal electors.
Cardinal Bergoglio stood up and spoke strongly and clearly about some of the problems that these cardinals were talking about. And I think they had the sense that this is not a man who's past his prime. This is a man who could really come in and make the changes that need to be made.
Joining us now is Professor Andrew Holman, an assistant professor of theology and philosophy at Marian University. Thank you for joining us. Will we see a shift of any kind now that Pope Francis will be in charge?
I don't think we'll see some doctrinal shift or anything like that. I do think it's a huge moment. It's obviously a shift away from Europe and the Middle East. It is a shift to somebody who is not a long-time employee or laborer in the Curia, but rather somebody who is in a parish.
Talking about street level, right? A guy that really is not from on high, but came right from a regular church.
Absolutely, street level, and street level in so many senses. I mean, I think he is quoted as having told his priests, hey, yeah, you could get killed in the streets. If the choice is get killed in the streets or stay in the church, go out in the street. Everybody takes a risk going into the street. It's okay.
What will be the influence? Because he is coming from Latin America, which has more than 500 million parishioners, Catholic parishioners.
Right.
Will that shift change the way the church is viewed in the other parts of the world?
It may affect it a little bit on a popular level, but I think really from Vatican II on, the church has been, as Karl Rahner said, a world church. There were all these priests from six continents, indigenous clergy. So in that sense, that it's universal has been noted. Commentators in the last few years have frequently pointed out that the shift is to the south, that the largest Catholic population is Latin American, almost 40%, that the second, the place where the church is growing the most is in Africa.
So were you surprised by this choice, or did you think
Actually, I was hoping that it would be someone other than from Italy. I was surprised. I did not think that someone who was 76 would be chosen.
Another surprise was the age of the Pope, because he's 76, and in these days, the 76 is really someone else's 50. But should we be concerned that we're going to have another retirement or another one leaving the papacy so soon? And he hasn't even started yet.
He appears to be in good health. He appears to be in good health. The doctors say he's in good health. It won't bother me personally if there is a retirement. I actually think this is a wonderful opportunity in the church.
So you think it's okay to see popes retire and just go on vacation?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I look at it and I say, priests retire, bishops retire, cardinals retire, or no longer have a vote or a responsibility. It's okay. I really think that while the only word in canon law is the word for resigning, for renouncing the office, I don't think that describes the current reality. For me, the current reality is retiring. Pope Benedict comes from a country where retirement is valued. And the idea that in retirement one might do one's own work and continue, that seems perfectly fine. The last pope who did resign, Celestine V, went back to the monastery. I take Pope Benedict at his word that he will continue to pray and to study, and we have canon lawyers. They'll be able to figure out the mechanics of this. There are lawyers and church lawyers for everything.
Professor Holman, thank you so much. Come back again. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Indiana has the largest voucher program, so does it need to be expanded even more? Governor Pence is pushing for it. Our political insiders will debate after the break. Joining us now are two of our four political insiders, Democrat Kip Tu and Republican Jennifer Hollowell. So much to talk about. How does the governor's office recover this week after the federal government sort of rejected their expansion of Medicaid in anticipation of the Affordable Health Care Act that's supposed to take place in 2014?
Right. You know, the governor's office has really stumbled out of the gate here from the time he took office. His attempt to get a 10% tax cut is met with a thud by both leaders of the General Assembly, and now he's been embarrassed in trying to seek this waiver so that he can continue the Healthy Indiana plan rather than what the Affordable Care Act calls for, which is Medicaid expansion. The two leaders of the General Assembly on the Democratic side sent him a letter this week saying, you know, we're very concerned. April 29th is going to come before you have complied with what needs to be complied with, and we have to figure out what we're going to do to expand these health care coverage to 600,000 Hoosiers.
Jennifer, did he stumble, or was
no,
the bureaucracy get in the way?
Not at all. First of all, there's no mistake. Nothing's in danger here. What this is Democrats creating a controversy that doesn't exist. They submitted for the waiver. The deadline is actually not until this summer. If you look back at the last time that the state submitted for a waiver, it took the federal government over a year to respond. There's talk about the public comment, and in fact what happened was the notice for the public meetings was sent out on February 20th. It's in the Indiana Register for February 20th. This letter was received February 25th. They clearly understand the process. We've got smart people from the previous administration, smart people in this administration, and they understand the process. They were trying to move the ball forward, get the process started early because the federal bureaucracy is ridiculous.
So will there be a plan? I mean, will both houses be able to get something in time before they leave town in April?
Well, there's no issue with that. The process is in the hands.
He's already laughing.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, there's an underlying issue that's very important, and that's whether or not we're going to get the waiver based upon what they've submitted. And if we don't get the waiver, then we are going to be the uninsured island in the Midwest, because the rest of the Midwest has gone ahead and taken the Affordable Care Act to heart, and they're going ahead and taking it. And so, Governor needs to get with the program and get with the rest of the conservative Republican governors across the United States who said we're going to go ahead and implement the Affordable Care Act.
She's not agreeing with you at all.
I don't, because they're making this up. I mean, they either don't understand the process or they don't care, because there's plenty of time for this to take place. Okay? And the program obviously has been proven to be very effective. It has over 90% approval rating. by the folks who are participating in it. I can't imagine why the federal government wouldn't want to allow us to continue that
one reason
when
why
you're actually delivering better care in a more fiscally responsible way.
Well, one problem is there's an 18-month waiting period to get on it, and so that's a big problem. And there's a whole bunch of other things they don't cover that Medicaid does, and so you're going to have a lot of folks a lot of things that need to be covered under Medicaid will not be covered under the HIP program. There's also a requirement that you pay into the program, which I think is a good thing, which we've debated before, and that is, Republicans have criticized the Affordable Care Act because it requires everybody to pay a mandate. They went to the United States Supreme Court saying the mandate was unconstitutional. It was government takeover. And now Republicans in Indiana are saying, we really want people to have some skin in the game. So I think we all agree there ought to be some skin in the game, and that's one thing that's not so bad about HIP. But it doesn't cover enough, and it's going to leave a huge gap. And right now there's 50,000 Hoosiers on the waiting list.
I only have 20 seconds left. And vouchers, will we see the expansion in this legislature? Will we see more people the school vouchers?
I sure hope so, because every child deserves to get a great education regardless of where they live and what their family income is, and that is something that we should expand.
I think every child certainly deserves a great education. I don't think they deserve a great religious education. There should be separation of church and state. And furthermore, the kids that are on vouchers can't get to some of these schools because we have a lousy transportation system in this city.
The debate will continue in the green room. Thank you so much. Stay up to date on our political news anytime by following our insiders on our Capitol Watch blog. You can find the link on our webpage, theindychannel.com. Indianapolis This Week continues after the break. Today is St. Patrick's Day, and the festivities are getting started very soon at one of the area's biggest parties. The 16th annual Indianapolis Downtown Irish Festival is just an hour away from kicking off at the Rathskeller. There's going to be live music, authentic Irish food, and one of the best parts, there's no admissions charge. And on this day when we're all Irish, I'm Rafael O. Sanchez. Thank you for watching. Join Drew Smith tonight for RTV6 News, and we're always on theindychannel.com. Have a great day.